The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi folks, today on Aging Horizons we're going to be talking about SMP, or the Senior Medicare Patrol. And we have with us one of our very favorite guests, Renee Labrie-Shanks, who is the statewide coordinator for the SMP program. We have so much to tell you about and ways that you can protect your information. So don't go anywhere, stay with us.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
I have so many questions about power of attorney.
Well, some powers of attorney are for finances and others are for healthcare decisions.
A power of attorney designates an agent who would make decisions on your behalf.
While making a power of attorney, you have the ability to control your agent's power.
You also have the ability to decide when that POA would take effect.
Wait, am I giving away all my rights?
Power of attorney isn't a license to make any decision for you, just those that you've specified.
Your agent should be somebody that's working in your best interest, but it should also be somebody that you would trust.
What if they try to abuse their power?
Protective measures like third-party accounting, secondary signatures, defined spending and gifting limits can help protect against financial exploitation. An agent's powers can always be limited by a customized power of attorney, and they can be revoked by you or the court if the power of attorney is abused.
So carefully drafted estate planning documents can help ensure that your finances are monitored, but not abused.
If you or someone you know is being exploited, please report to Aging Services Bureau at 844-277-9300 or the Legal Service Developer at 1-800-332-2272. This message sponsored by the DPHHS Aging Service Bureau.
Respite care is amazing. If you are capable of doing it, the rewards are beyond measure.
Stephanie Young, respite care provider, on the unexpected benefits of helping people in need.
Being a respite care provider is an amazing experience. It's something that what you give, you get back 100-fold. You receive so much more than you could ever imagine.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, go to respite.mt.gov.
Hello everyone and welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Kimmy Everman, and as I said in the open, we're going to be talking about the Senior Medicare Patrol today, SMP, or just how to stamp out fraud in your Medicare life. We have with us Renee Labrie-Shanks, and Renee is the Montana statewide SMP director. Renee, nice to have you back. So good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start out. I can't believe it's possible people don't know what SMP is, but why don't you give us just that basic idea and just the foundation that we need to know?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, SMP, I hope it's become something that becomes an everyday word for everybody. It stands for Senior Medicare Patrol, but what it basically does is empower and assist Medicare beneficiaries, also their family members and caregivers, and we want to prevent, detect, and report healthcare fraud, errors, and abuse. And that's it in a nutshell. And how we do that is through outreach, counseling, education, things like this, trying to get the word out to let people know we exist and we're here to help them.
So Renee, you have a number of team members who work on that senior Medicare Patrol, the issues. How are they trained, or what kind of folks are they? What kind of backgrounds do they have?
Sure. Thanks for asking that. SMP is located in all the area agencies on aging in Montana, as well as some county councils on aging. So the team members include the trained staff who are also SHIP certified, which, as you very well know, is the State Health Insurance Assistance Program. And we're there to help people understand their Medicare benefits, enrollments, and all of that. So we work really closely with the SHIP program. We work through the area agencies on aging, and at times we do utilize utilize highly trained volunteers, which can come from all sorts of backgrounds. So they don't need a medical background to volunteer, but we get them trained, and it's through a national training program to get everybody the foundation they need to understand what we're doing.
Right. And give us an example or a couple of examples maybe of the kinds of things that your team might work on for a Medicare beneficiary.
Yeah, well, I like to think of it in three categories. One is we conduct outreach and education. So whether it's a volunteer or a staff member, we're out there giving presentations to groups, exhibits at events, manning tables, and we're also working one-on-one with beneficiaries. And it's all at the basis of that to prevent, detect, and report potential Medicare fraud, and also the mistakes that happen, the errors and abuse. And then the second thing is we want to engage volunteers. We are known as a volunteer-based program. We want to protect people's health, their finances, their medical identity, and we want to also save those Medicare dollars. And so we utilize civic-minded people that volunteer for the program to help us get more out of the program, because it is a grant-funded program, and we utilize community members to try and help get that outreach done. And then the last thing is to receive the actual complaints, help resolve billing issues, help people understand their bills, or resolve questions they might have. When Medicare beneficiaries or their caregivers, again, I always want to include caregivers and family members because that's so important. But when they bring their complaints to SMP, we can make a determination of whether or not there might be fraud, which goes right to the Office of Inspector General through us. There might also just be mistakes. And when we can help resolve those, that takes a lot of stress off of people as well, and saves a lot of dollars too with cost avoidance.
And Renee, we've talked about this before. Montana doesn't have tons of fraud. Isn't that true? Isn't it mostly mistakes that we see in Montana?
Yeah, I would say, related to fraud, when we compare ourselves to Florida and Houston, of course, we don't have the population base either. So fraudsters probably go to those highly populated areas. But thanks to the telephone and technology and computers and the amount of information that's so confusing, we are definitely not isolated from fraud anymore. We might have been more, 15 years ago even, but now with telemarketing, callers about durable medical equipment and diabetic supplies, we're getting hit just as hard as anywhere. And I would say the thing that protects us the most in Montana is the fact we know our neighbors, we know our pharmacists, we know people. We're not this anonymous, huge city across the state where nobody knows anybody. And so it is harder to eke out a little fraud closet in somewhere in Billings or Helena or something, because people know their providers. So that hopefully will remain the same for a long time to come.
Yeah, and I think that we say that about so many things in Montana, that even though lots of miles here, it's still a very, very small place in a lot of respects. And I think with the SMP, what's great about that is it gives people, especially your volunteers, a chance to continue to give to their community while helping someone with a might be very complicated situation.
Oh, very much. There's many that are they overcomplicated, and it's not the person, it's not even the provider, it's just the system. It's getting more and more complicated, and all the different health plans out there that, billing services and just everything combined. It's a recipe for disaster, basically. And, some simple cases that just need to be resubmitted. But sometimes we're that middleman that can help
Sure.
bridge that gap and explain things in terms where we can get the provider understanding what we need and the beneficiary understanding what needs to be done.
Right. And folks, Renee said it best. It can be a very complicated system, and you might just need a little bit of assistance. Now come on back. We have a whole lot more to tell you about.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
You mean I can get help paying my prescription drug premiums?
Let me get this straight. I could be eligible for help with my family's prescription premiums even though I own my own home?
And our assets won't be counted.
If you're a Montana resident enrolled in the Medicare prescription drug program, you could be eligible for help paying your premiums. Call or visit the Big Sky RX website today to find out, even if you think you're over income.
What do you know about that? I'm eligible.
When I found out it was diabetes, my first thought was, Barb, you need help. You have to take control of this. There is help. My doctor gave me a phone number. I called and signed up with a diabetes educator. There is help. I have to put blinders on when I walk past the bakery counter. I can feel my blood sugar go up. You succeed a little at a time. If you have diabetes, help is available. You do not have to do it alone.
Ask your doctor about diabetes education or visit montana211.org.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here with Renee Labrie-Shanks today talking about the SMP program, or the Senior Medicare Patrol. Welcome back. Hi.
Thank you. Hello.
Yep, so good to have you, Renee. All right, so we've chatted a bit about what SMP is all about, but let's really open up this can of worms because it's big, isn't it? And we call it medical identity theft. That's really the best term for it. I guess dive in, Renee.
Yeah.
What are we looking for? What should be a red flag to us? The whole deal. Tell us what to do.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's important to know about medical identity theft because people always hear about identity theft, but medical identity theft can be worse because there's no central depository that keeps everything in one place, unlike when our actual identity is stolen. So it occurs when someone steals any personal information, whether it's by a provider, a supplier, someone over the phone, someone posing as a real beneficiary, and they might use the information to get medical treatment or supplies or drugs, surgery, you name it. So that's when the actual beneficiary, when they fall prey to these consumer scams, they're aimed at obtaining their Medicare or health ID numbers, and stealing those from people because they can probably forever put false claims against their Medicare number, which is the number one reason we push so hard to get that Medicare number changed. It is no longer someone's social security number, so it can be changed. It can be stopped and changed. So that's a big help. But it's not just, affecting their medical and health insurance records. Every time a scammer uses a beneficiary's identity to receive or bill supplies or anything about that, it can actually impact their health. I mean, that's something where, the intervention might be harmful if a provider thinks that they have different, diagnosis than they have because somebody has used theirs and everything's kind of merged together. It can also cause personal financial losses. Medicare fraud, errors, and abuse. Those can result in higher out-of-pocket costs, co-payments for healthcare services, or they can lose out on benefits because someone's already accessed that and they haven't paid attention by reading their statements. And then also it can just cause a lot of extra stress because this could take years to clear up once it happens. So we always want people to know that if they believe anyone has misused their number or they've given it out and they're just thinking that maybe they shouldn't have. We want them to contact the SMP in their area, and they can do that by calling that 1-800-551-3191 number. That'll get them their closest office on aging.
Yeah, perfect resource, Renee, because not only can you get a hold of that SMP worker and have a discussion, but just knowing your area agency on aging and all the different kinds of services they might have available is really, really important for folks in our communities here in Montana. So thanks for bringing that up and letting us know how those fit together. Now, in terms of the medical identity theft, we talked about that's a pretty big, broad category. And you did a great job of sort of outlining what can happen and how long it can take to clear that up. What should you do? Let's just go straight to the beginning. Let's say that you did read your Medicare summary notice, which is very important, and we know that. And you found something that seemed like it just wasn't right. What's the first thing you do?
Well, if somebody notices any mistakes or has questions, to call their provider or their plan immediately, because they have the ability to do that. If they contacted us, we go through the whole release of information and, get that middleman involved. But if they can do that themselves, it's quicker, easier. And then if they don't get their answers that they're looking for or don't feel satisfied, please contact us, and we can advocate for them and get involved.
Yeah, and it might be, if you try to call that provider yourself, you might be able to just handle it with one phone call and not have to go any further. But as you said, if you're not getting whatever it is you think you should be getting out of that conversation, give you guys a call. And we're going to call the area agency, certainly. And you have folks, SMP folks, all around the state, don't you?
Yes, at each area agency on aging and those county councils as well.
So all you have to do is give a call, and even if you're not at the right office, they can probably refer you to where that person is so that you can get more information.
Yes, correct.
And then what about websites or anything like that? Is there anything we should know about that?
As far as scams, you mean? Or?
Well, yeah, and actually, that's such a biggie. I think we're going to wait till next segment to start talking about the scams because, wow, they're huge. So there's an actual scam website that you can go to?
No, I mean, there's multiple.
Yeah.
In fact, we want people to feel empowered to find the scams themselves, to not wait until they need to call somebody, because these scams evolve over time, and trying to keep up with the latest attempts to get our money or personal information is almost impossible. Sure. But there's just ways that ensure that, we don't fall victim, and we feel like we don't need to know what the scams are ahead of time, because they all have a lot of things in common.
Right. Well, and folks, when we come back, we're going to talk more about the scams that we've referred to here, because as Renee told us, they are always evolving, always changing, slightly different information or whatever, but it's always changing, and you need to be able to stay on top of that as best you can. So come on back, we have a lot more to tell you.
Wildfires rage in forests and developed areas. Where do you live? Are you familiar with your community's risk and its capacity to respond? If not, it's time to learn.
Talk to your neighbors. Ask about the wildfire risk and the evacuation plans. Decide what you can do to mitigate the hazard.
Everything you and your neighbors do right now might save property and lives later. If there's no group to join, form one. Get help at firesafemt.org. Paid for by FireSafe Helena and aired by the Montana Broadcasters Association.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
I've been shooting since I was young. It's something I've always enjoyed. I wasn't feeling like myself, but my friend noticed. He asked if he could hold onto my guns temporarily. At first, I was a little shocked, but then I agreed. I think he saved my life that day.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here talking about SMP, or the Senior Medicare Patrol, today with Renee Labrie-Shanks, the statewide director. Hi Renee, good to have you back.
Thank you.
So, we were talking off camera a little bit, and we're almost into open enrollment. Or just started open enrollment, so I bet the scams will be coming fast and furious at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, people should be prepared. If they're not already, they will be. The information is just overloading at this time of year. And I think the importance of the information is critical to people to making the best choice for themselves during these open enrollment. But they need to remind themselves while they're reading or listening or watching on TV, a commercial, that marketing information is just that. It's marketing. And they need to, think in terms of the fact that if a national commercial is talking about these great things, how might it be in Montana, in their county? That a lot of things don't apply to everybody when we're looking at marketing out there. So, the scams themselves, most of them succeed because they look like the real thing, and they try to catch you off guard when you're not expecting it. So we just want people to be alert to the fact that obviously scams exist. And when they receive any uninvited contact, whether it's, through a phone call, by mail, email, social media, to just be empowered to check. And we can give them those tips too on how to check for the scams themselves, how important it is for them to do that so they're not waiting for somebody else to help them out of a jam afterwards. If they're at the front end expecting scams, knowing that the marketing might be out there to just sell them something that might not be right for them, which isn't an all right. It's not necessarily a scam, but it's still going to mess up their benefits if they don't pay attention. So we want them to take a few steps. You want me to go over those?
Yeah, why don't you? Because what I was just thinking when you were saying that, Renee, is that some of these ads that we're being inundated with this time of year, they're not scams. But as you said, they may not be right for you. And the marketing may make it seem wonderful, but it's still not the best choice for you. So yeah, let's hear about some of the steps that we should go through when we're trying to identify what's really good for us.
Yeah, because, like I said, with those claims of, everything sounds great, right? There's additional benefits. Like right now with open enrollment period, we're hearing about Medicare plans, and there's dental, vision, hearing coverage, some even money for groceries and home delivered meals. But what they don't tell you is that benefits vary by plan, and plan availability depends on your location. So when you hear this on TV, it's probably not even available in your area. So the first thing to do is, the first step is to write down, collect any information, including name, phone number, addresses, any information they can. And then the next step is to look them up. And, whether it's someone telling you that Medicare is sending them a plastic card, which I hope everybody knows is not happening. Medicare is never going to send out a new card. It took 40 years for the first, new card. So not happening. But anyway, Medicare, calling to send you a new card or a chip in it or something, or maybe they have money to give you, but first you need to pay a fee, or there's a warrant for your arrest. It's not even medical related. There's all sorts of scams out there, but open your internet browser or ask someone else to do it, which is, your search engine like Google, Internet Explorer, whatever it is, and type in there any relevant details, the word scam. So like Medicare plastic card scam, jury duty warrant scam, Social Security scam, just whatever the relevant details or any information of the topic and scam, and see what comes up. If it's a legitimate business, if they've just got the company name and address, if it's a legitimate business, that will get you to the company. If you type in the phone number or the address or the name and it's not coming up, that's a red flag right there that it's not a legitimate business. So that one step alone can stop scams in their tracks, regardless of what the newest version is. That's the biggest key that we can tell them. And then, of course, it'd be great if not answering numbers you don't know. That's a good choice to do because scammers are tricky. They use phishing. They use tools right now that make it look like they are calling from a local community where they're not, or where they're calling from a business that they're not. So if someone does answer the phone, another tip is if they've already answered the phone because they're maybe expecting a call from somebody or their doctor or something, and they find themselves on the other end of one of these calls that they don't want to be on, instead of just hanging up, always say, please put me on your do not call list and thank you, and hang up. And you don't have to be polite to these people, but there's some insiders that said if people were rude to them, they just up the rotation and keep them on the calls longer. So it doesn't hurt to just say, please just put me on the do not call list. Thank you. And hang up. Done. Just keep that script in your head and you would never give out information at that point.
So it sounds like there's a couple of fairly not complicated steps, especially if you have the ability to get on your computer and look a few things up. I did want to say that I had a call from someone that said I was going to be arrested because I didn't pay my taxes. And when I looked up the phone number, it looked like they were from the IRS office, and they weren't at all. And luckily, I was in the know enough to avoid that, but they can make it sound very frightening and very real. And as you said, they have the tools now to really make it appear that they're calling from somewhere that they are not. And we have so much more to talk about, you guys. We have information that will help you perhaps avoid a scammer or two.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.